Hi, welcome to the Fit and Healthy Today show. And today our topic matter is on diaper rash. Now, I geared this for infants, but as my husband reminded me, we do have an aging population in which we're utilizing more and more adult diapers. So this would apply to both infant as well as adults, and hopefully alleviating some of the symptoms associated with diaper rash. First of all, it's a common dermatitis of infants or any person who's in a diaper that is exposed to any type of urine, feces, or moisture in the particular diaper area that can lend itself to either yeast or bacterial infections. It doesn't have to be that way. It can start off with just an irritation, but it can lend itself to what are called secondary infections as well. The causes. Now, we usually think in terms of, oh geez, the babysitter's not changing the diaper enough. And I would say that could and is possibly most likely the case. But we have other things when we have good moms and good babysitters that are changing the diapers that can contribute to diaper rash in both infants and adults. So, first of all, prolonged contact with irritants, which include urine, stool, and possibly detergents or chemicals found in disposable diapers. Things you have to rule out. So always running, if you're using non-disposable, I know most people use disposable nowadays, look for or make sure you're putting your diapers on a second rinse. And if you're using disposable, gosh, I know at our store we have the chlorine-free, chemical-free types of diapers that will be a lot less irritating to baby or to adults. Now, when we're talking about diaper rash, besides just the continued exposure to fecal matter or urine, we have other potential causes. When we're looking at this, it's interesting. I separated out breastfed babies from formula-fed babies because they can have different causes. Now, in breastfed babies, something usually in the mother's diet is just too acidic, and that can include pineapples, oranges, tomatoes, too much refined carbohydrates, processed foods, or just plain and simple nutrient deficiencies. I have a lot of breastfeeding mothers coming in whose doctors are telling them, oh, you'll get everything from the diet, don't worry about it. And that is absolutely false. I know I was in agriculture for a lot of years. We do not get the nutrients from our food anymore, and don't let anybody convince you otherwise. And there's a lot of good testings on food to say otherwise by the National Institute of Health. Our foods nowadays, nutrient deficient, they're on the shelves to look pretty. Your odds of getting better quality foods rise obviously when you get organics or sustained organic produce. But just a warning, if you're breastfeeding, please don't just rely on your diet. Formula-fed babies. It can be an allergic reaction to the formula. A lot of babies are sensitive to the milk proteins or to soy protein, and so looking at one that is a little bit more hypoallergenic nowadays, looking for maybe the rice-based types of formulas or what are called the comfort proteins or goat milk formulas are a good option, making sure that they're rich in essential fatty acids. Oftentimes we find these formulas that are high in trans fats, and they'll say the fat content, but they're and saturated fats, but they'll be very low in what are called essential fatty acids that are necessary for reduction of inflammation and for baby's brain. So this has to be examined. Introduction of cow's milk, particularly at an early age. Now, I know my pediatrician, particularly for my second and third son, said do not introduce regular milk to your baby until age 2. And the reason why is their digestive tract cannot break down the casings, the large protein particles in the milk, so it can lend itself to a lot of hypersensitivity, and it can actually destroy the baby's digestive tract to where you're going to have them be hypersensitive to a lot of things as life progresses. So suggestion would be please don't introduce cow's milk until age 2. Sticking with the formulas or the broken down types of proteins that you're going to find like in the comfort proteins or goat milk is going to be much more acceptable and less inviting of potential problems later on down the road. Antibiotic usage. Now, I know one of our pediatricians in town that whenever she puts babies on a antibiotic, she's sending them over to the store to grab what are called probiotics. Now, see, babies' digestive tracts don't have real thick layers of these good bacteria that have built over with time. And so when you put them on an antibiotic, it can really destroy their good bacteria, lending themselves to hypersensitivities, poor nutritional imbalances or nutritional deficiencies, and actually can lend itself to sepsis, which is what happened to my what's now 20-year-old when he was age 2, that landed him in an emergency room to untie his intestines because these antibiotics had destroyed all his good bacteria. So that can lend itself to a lot of bad bacteria and yeast issues, which can contribute to diaper rash and other infections. Wheat or gluten grains introduced before age 1. That's why we have rice-based cereals. Rice-based cereals are the best to start baby with. No, please don't go feeding them the oatmeal and bread and everything else. Never before age 1. Because once again, the glutens and those types of proteins found in gluten products such as wheat, oat, barley are very difficult for babies to break down, and you can make them extremely hypersensitive. If they're gluten intolerant, oh, heaven help you, which about 1/3 of our population is, they'll have tons of gas, lots of bowel problems, and can end up with baby eczema, all kinds of wonderful triggers, early onset autoimmune disorders among babies as well too. When you're doing foods, adding in one food at a time. I know that the pediatricians I had for my sons didn't recommend adding any type of food in until age 6 months. And I know a lot of people, I mean, I had these big, huge babies, and so it was very hard. I had to keep my breast milk up to keep up with their appetites. But I can tell you, though, if you do the rice cereal and then you gradually add in one type of food at a time, particularly your non-acidic types of foods, which are going to be primarily your vegetables. You always want to start babies on vegetables anyway because you don't give them so much sugar cravings. If you start them on fruits, yeah boy. But as you're weaning them off the formulas or breast milk, also too, you're going to be probably introducing more foods. And adding a food in at a time, starting with like carrots or squash, really easy to digest spinach, easy to digest types of foods, and adding things one at a time and watching their digestive tract. Also, as I've noted before, with the more alkali the base types of foods that we have in baby's diet, you're going to have less chance of diaper rash and having acidity or an acidic pH in their diaper area. If baby gets diaper rash, you know, in my generation, my mom told me that they used to put us out for about 10 minutes of sun every day, and they'd put us out with our bare bottoms and they'd sun us. They just always made sure that our eyes were down so we were never looking at the sun. Sunlight or ultraviolet light exposure is excellent for healing any type of diaper rash for adults or children. Changing obviously the diaper's frequency, trying to go with chemical free or making sure the detergents are washed out of the diapers is quite necessary in order to prevent further occurrences. Make sure the area is completely dry. You know, it's so easy to be in a hurry and you just wipe them off with the baby wipe and slap on the other diaper and they're wet. So, you know, having a nice washcloth to kind of dry them off a little bit. You can use a little bit of powder, a calendula powder, or there are powders. We have to watch certain powders, especially baby powders, for inhalation by babies. So keeping it a little bit of dusting of powder during the day, and then maybe a little bit of oil at night. There's a lot of good oils. Jojoba oil, calendula oil, which is very healing and preventative, especially if baby pees in the middle of the night and you end up with a wet diaper and them sitting it all night. It'll put a barrier down. Zinc oxide creams with the calendula mixed with a little bit of tea tree can help, and just a drop or so when you're putting it on baby's little bottom or adult's bottom on there to form that little barrier. The calindia really will heal the diaper area, or zinc oxide. And the tea tree is an antimicrobial that kills the bacterial and fungal types of infections, but just a couple of drops, not a whole lot. Now, there's an old-fashioned remedy that's been around for a very long time, and you could probably use this in a spray bottle if you choose. And you're going to take, for every 1 quart of water, you're going to add a tablespoon of a raw apple cider vinegar. I'm not talking the grocery store one that's full of chemicals and processed, but like something like Bragg's apple cider vinegar. A tablespoon along with a quart of water, and you shake it up each time, and you can spray baby. And it helps change the pH to where it's a more alkali form, so the bacteria don't form, and they heal much better. But once again, patting baby off dry, making sure they're thoroughly dry before you put the diaper back on, either with a little powder or a little something. See, I never used powders on my babies. I just made sure that they were nice and dry, and I can remember very few cases of diaper rash, only if they were at daycare for a lengthy period of time. And under those circumstances, then I was busy trying to heal them up. There were a couple of unusual things that I had not run across in my research. We all know that aloe vera works very well for burns, and we can use that for esophageal burning. You know, we get sunburns. Aloe vera gel can be very, very soothing, because I'll tell you, when they get sore, they scream, obviously, because it's painful. It's like a burn, and then you get urine on it, and it burns again. So that calendula oil, along with a little aloe vera, could be extremely soothing for them. Liquid lecithin every 2 to 4 hours can aid the healing. Lecithin comes from soy, but it's very healing and very emollient as well, too. We talked a little bit and touched upon diet a little bit earlier, but when we examine, obviously, the types of foods, we have to avoid the citrus, juices, tomatoes, strong spices, alcohol, which you shouldn't be doing if you're breastfeeding anyway, coffee, junk foods, processed carbohydrates, and gluten. Obviously, from a gas standpoint, we want to kind of avoid the broccolis and the cauliflowers and the cabbages also. But these foods will make baby's urine and poopy very, very acidic. You want raw fruits and vegetables, especially carrots, and there's some studies regarding this, especially with carrot juice. It's very alkaline to the blood, and in turn can make baby's pH when mommy's breastfeeding much, much better as far as not causing those acidic rashes. Try to eat gluten-free grains as much as you possibly can until you know later on, obviously, whether your baby's gluten intolerant, considering 1/3 of the population now is. So your baby may be crying and screaming, and you can't figure out why. You know, baby's got all this swelling and gas and everything, and you got rid of all the broccoli and cauliflower and everything. Could be that all the gluten grains you're eating are causing a problem. So keep that in mind as well, too, that if you have a baby that's particularly seeming to have a lot of gastrointestinal issues and diaper rash issues, eat gluten-free types of grains, which would be rice and sprout. We touched upon already the formulas. Now, when we're talking about supplements that aid and abet the healing process, you know, if we don't have adequate amounts of B vitamins and adequate amounts of buffered C, I'm not talking ascorbic acid from your local warehouse place, but natural vitamin C as in a buffered C, the skin tissues can't heal. And when you lack good fats in the diet, you can't keep moist and you can't reduce inflammation. A lot of mothers' diets lack nuts, avocados, essential fatty acids that are great for baby's brain and the bottom. So here is a list of supplements that I strongly suggest that every mother add. Now, the vitamin A is optional if baby tends to have a lot of bacterial or yeast infections.